Welcome to the Rapport Advantage podcast, transforming the way leaders communicate. Here's your host, human behavior expert and professional speaker, Swire-Clark.
Welcome to the show. It's post-Thanksgiving for all those Americans who celebrate Thanksgiving, and I'm still stuffed, Liz. Ugh.
Oh, I know. It's a good day of food.
That's right. That's right. So now you have to fast for like 2 weeks to get back to where you were before you started.
So that you could be prepared for the next holiday feast.
That's right. Or multiple feasts, as we do here in America. You go celebrate Christmas maybe a couple of days before at one set of family, and then in your own house, maybe on Christmas Day, and then maybe a couple of days after, whether some other family or in and around there. So, yeah, it's lots of festive feasting and fattening, as we say.
That's exactly right.
Welcome to the Rapport Advantage podcast, home of the turkey and dressing. We're excited to have you with us today. If you haven't listened to our podcast before, stop, back up, go back and listen to episodes 2 through 6, because those will give you all of the background that you'll need to understand this DISC philosophy and methodology that we use to discover more about humans and their behavior patterns. We are here to help you break down the walls of miscommunication, increase your emotional intelligence, and build better relationships in the workplace and beyond. No, really. No, thanks. No, it's our pleasure, really. It's our pleasure. 100% free on the show.
Wow,
that's
value.
Right. That's like Value City right here. Oh, wait a minute. That's like trademark. That's like a name of a brand. I'm sorry. Value Stuff, Value Place. Anyway, I'm just going to move on before I get copyright lawyers talking to me. I am Swire-Clark, CEO, speaker, and emotional intelligence expert.
And I am Liz Parker, certified behavioral analyst. I do job benchmarking, strategic growth consultant, and Vistage chair.
Vistage is a great organization. If you're a CEO listening and you're not a part of it, you need to get after it. I'll be actually speaking in December to some groups out in LA, so looking forward to that, and stopping by the corporate offices, hopefully, down in San Diego.
Woohoo!
Yes, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. This show is all about you. Give us your input and feedback. You can find us on Facebook at The Rapport Advantage, on Twitter at Rapport Podcast, or visit the website at rapportadvantage.com. Today, we are continuing our 4-part series on the hindering factors in selling. Last 4-part series was how to sell and the things we need to look for. Now we're talking about what not to do. In other words, don't stick your dumb foot in your mouth. It's bad stuff going to happen to you. So today we're working with our S's, our S types. So our hindering factors when we're selling to high S's, the things you don't want to do. And number one on that list, Liz, is going too fast. Because when you go really fast like this, an S is not going to understand you. Sorry. Let me back up. Number one, going too fast. Take your time, slow it down a little bit for those S's. If you've got 45 minutes, spend a lot of time in that moment doing some rapport building, squish down your presentation for what you're going to be trying to sell them, and focus more on that relationship.
That's really good. And in addition to that, it's getting too friendly in that first meeting. So when you're talking about building that rapport, you really want to make sure that you spend a little time kind of learning about them, but not assuming right away they're your best friend, because they are hesitant. They will become your best friend if you spend some time with them. But if you get too friendly in that first meeting, they are going to be turned off.
That's right. And this is really especially true for our high I's, because, our D's and our C's, they kind of stick to business in most of those situations, being task-oriented. But our I's, man, they want to be friends with everybody on the planet, the squirrel next door, the stop sign, they don't care. And so in that first meeting, like, hey, how's it going? Ooh, it's going to be great. And like, dude, wait a minute. I don't even know you, so let's have a little trust-building time, shall we? Okay. So, so number 2, getting too friendly in that first meeting. We're talking to you, I's. You know who you are.
Yes.
And we have a lot of them that we have to keep ourselves in control for.
That's right. We represent you, the people of the I kingdom. Number 3 on our list is loud emotional sales presentations. Hey, how are you doing, High S, today? We're going to sell you some refrigerators. They're going to be the best ones you've ever seen. They're the glamour luxury line, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah! Okay, dude, slow your roll. Take a deep breath. Okay. So, again, more subtle, quiet tones. This is going back a little bit to the mirroring techniques that we've talked about before, and you've heard about in other sales training courses. You want to try to mirror a little bit more with those S's. They're going to be a little bit more reserved, so you need to be a little bit more reserved. S's are going to be slower paced than your D's and your I's. So slow down your speech a little bit, lower the voice a little bit, and smile a little bit without going too crazy, because if you start getting really in their face or really loud, they're just going to be like, this guy is wacky, has lost his mind, and this presentation is nothing but a big fat epic fail. We're done here.
And that is definitely true. So on the loud emotional sales presentation, just a couple of thoughts is the D's and the I's really do lend themselves to that. The D can really get in your face if they want to really make a point. So just keeping it aware that D's and I's, we need to back off. We need to make sure that we give them their space. In addition, it takes us to the next one, which is being shallow with answers to questions, or actually just forgetting to answer them at all. That is definitely falling back into the I category. This is really a lot of stuff I's do. This is kind of like what an I shouldn't do, but it is hindering factors for selling to an S. And that is that we take everything as I's very surface. And we need to make sure, we don't take everything that way, but we need to make sure that we give some depth to our answers, that we're sincere, that we come across as very credible with what we are giving them and what we are, and we're being reliable. They want to be able to count on us and they want to feel safe with us. So being not too shallow, making sure that we have some depth to our answers.
That's a great point, Liz. And when we're talking about being shallow with answers to questions, we're going more fact-based instead of more feel-based, and S's like that feeling. Remember, right side of the graph are feelers, left side of the graph are folks who are about facts. So if you are shallow with your answers to your questions and you're not coming up with things that are going to be emotional for them, like how's this impacting the people in my organization, or how does this impact my family if I make this purchase? If you don't consider those things, you're going to miss the boat. We're getting to number 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 5 on our list.
Yes.
Hard selling. We talked earlier about going too fast in the beginning with your pace. This is all about trying to close too fast in the process. We all know about the 7 steps to selling and building rapport and all that kind of good stuff and answering objections and so forth. Well, you need to understand that S's are slow to make decisions just in nature. A C, which we'll talk about next episode, is going to be slow making decisions because they don't necessarily have all the facts. They want to get all the facts. Well, S's are slow to make decisions just because that's their nature. They don't like change. They don't want to be overwhelmed by, oh my gosh, this whole timeshare thing. We've never had a timeshare before. I don't know. I'm kind of scared. That kind of thing. Don't hard sell an S. Leave it open to them, and then schedule a follow-up when it's convenient for them so they can feel comfortable and they've had time to think about it, to process it, maybe talk to a family member about that decision, and they'll feel more comfortable, much more comfortable in saying yes at a later time when they've had a chance to kind of think and feel about it a little bit more.
You know, I got to share, there's a magic question that I've learned through the years for working with S's, and that's, where do you want to go from here? And allowing that to be an open question for them, allowing them to take their time and be able to say, hey, right now, I need to think about it. And as much as salespeople hate that answer, the S's do need to do that. And you need to allow that. So when you ask, where do you want to go from here? It really does make a difference. And it really helps them to give them some space and put some control on them. So that's one of the best questions I could ever suggest for people to use.
That is a money nugget right there, people. That's a money nugget. Liz providing all the good stuff as usual. Just showing me up every day. It's great.
Oh, and then we are a shared team. You know that, Mr. S.
Oh, get back to work, Alex. Okay, sorry, Liz. So our last one on the list today is bad-mouthing current suppliers, because you know what? Those S's are all about those relationships, and those suppliers could be good friends with those S's. So as a CEO or as a vice president of purchasing or whatever, and they are purchasing from another supplier, vendor, whomever, they've got relationships already established with those folks. And if you start to badmouth the product or that particular person who's a supplier, oh yeah, I know Bob, and man, you should have heard him on a golf course. He was using profanity all the time, throwing clubs. He's the worst guy in the world. You know, maybe Bob just had a bad day, or maybe Bob was, dealing with a loss of a loved one or something, and just was really upset with the world that day. That's not a good picture to paint of Bob, and you shouldn't be doing that anyway. You should be talking about your product, how good it can be, what it can do for the customer, and then from that, talk about the positives of that and not worry about the negative side of things. We talk about in the world of football and basketball with college athletes and the negative recruiting that goes on. So let's say if I'm a North Carolina fan, if I'm going to negative recruit, I'm going to say, well, NC State's bad at this, and Virginia Tech's awful at that, and Duke's this, and Clemson's that. And so instead of talking about my school, it's easier to tear other schools down. So in this particular scenario, we don't want to badmouth the other folks that you're competing against to get a bid. You want to impress upon that high S all the positives and the wonderful things that your product can do or your service can do for them, and not worry about the other competition. Focus on them, because as soon as you do that, I know as a high S, that turns me off. I'm like, why are you talking bad about somebody? If you're talking bad about somebody to me, if we have business, you might be talking bad about me to somebody else, and I don't want to do business with someone like that.
That's right. And you guys are, the S's, when I say you guys, are very loyal. And normally you're making these decisions. You've really weighed these decisions, and you have long-term relationships with these people for the most part. And you could be that next person that has a long-term relationship with an S, but you go down that path, forget it. That loyalty is gonna win out every time with an S.
That's right. I mean, that's going to be you're just not going to get anywhere else. It's done at that point. And so not to end on the show on a down negative note like that, but S's, we love people and we love relationships. And so you better be honest and true with us and think about the feelings that are involved, or else it's just not going to work out. So do unto others. Follow that golden rule. That's going to do it for today's show. Liz, how can folks get in touch with you?
They can email me at liz@ltresults.com or visit my website at ltresults.com.
Vision, mission, values.
Yes, sir.
That's what you do. You're so good at that.
Thank you.
What kind of impact does that have on an organization when you come into a place where that doesn't exist in terms of form and function for what they do on a daily basis? What kind of transformations have you seen, Liz, when you've worked with an organization on that?
It is total alignment. Everybody suddenly realizes what page they're on. They understand what their roles are. They understand what we're trying to achieve. You can get so much more done in less time because people are not off doing their own agendas, their own projects. They're all working under one umbrella. And so not only is the company working in a more unified approach, but so is the team.
I always think about when you're done, it's like a 10-person team rowboat that's all paddling kind of all at the different times. Before you get there, you're like, oh my gosh, what is all this stuff? And so when you leave, it's like stroke, stroke, stroke. And everybody's doing it at the same time. And the boat actually goes somewhere, instead of just sitting there treading water. So
well, thank you, Alex.
Liz is your rowboat guidance person.
Yes, it's a new descriptor.
Woohoo! All right. To get in touch with me, you can join our Facebook group, or you can head on over to the Rapport Advantage podcast on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter, as I said. Email me at contact@alexswire-clark.com. Be happy to help you with that. We are building a community on Facebook and Twitter, so follow us there. On our next podcast, we'll end this series up and talk about our high C's and the hindrances to a sale for them. Let me give you a little hint ahead of time. Don't go in there guns blazing with all your, woo, it's going to be a great day. Dude, no. You will lose, and that will not be good. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Rapport Advantage podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation on Facebook at the Rapport Advantage and follow us on Twitter at Rapport Podcast.